Hey guys, welcome to our video. Today we're doing Rejuve Chapter 1. Hope you guys enjoy the prologue, and let's get right into it. Okay guys, Chapter 1 starts with us on a boat. After registering for a league, going through character selection, all that good stuff, we go into the hallway and we meet our mom, because this is Pokemon, so we don't have a dad. And this is where we learn the most important, or one of the most important mechanics in the entire game. The friendship system. The friendship system is about making the right choices. So, depending on who we're nice to, on what we say to that character, they view us in a different way, and they treat us in a different way. Because for some reason, the characters in this game have an attitude. But I'll save that for the Renegade content later. But anyways, to restate, in the friendship system, depending on how we treat a character, they treat us differently, and it affects the later parts of the game, heavily so, especially the routes. The friendship system determines which route you take and are able to take. But anyways, this is our mom, so of course, we're nice. So after talking to our mom, she tells us to go see the captain. But before that, we decide, go around the ship, look for any hidden Easter eggs. And so here are the few more interesting interactions that we got. After those, we keep exploring the ship, find the weird lady who talked to our mom, asks us if we knew who we were, even though she knows who we are, so strange. And we go to the captain's office and we talk to him. He's mainly just there to give us information about the world, and through him is where we learn one of the most important things. There's 18 gym leaders, and there's an elite 8 of them. So yeah, I think that shows you how cool this game is, when there's 18 gym leaders. Leaving the captain, we go to a banquet hall, meet up with our mom, and see the suspicious lady there. As the banquet begins, the trio from before show up and give their so-called presentation, aka taking over the boat. Bravely, our mom steps forward, but before we could get involved, she calls out to this mysterious lady called Crescent apparently, and the Gothitail with her sends us away to the captain's office, right before a giant explosion engulfs the ship. We wake up in the captain's office as it's burning down. We run down the stairs just to see an entire man get kidnapped by a Deoxys.
What the fuck?
So that happened. Anyways, we make our way to the banquet hall, find the captain luckily still alive. He tells us our mom jumped down into the hole after the people who blew up the ship, and so, without hesitation, we go in after her. As we make our way through the burning ship, we see the Gothitail fighting off one of the hijackers. Powerless, we quickly ignore it and keep going down to the lower levels. There, in the bottom room, we find our mom fighting one of the hijackers. After reuniting with our mom, the hijacker she's fighting tells us that our mom was in fact the target of the entire attack.
What do you say fuck me for?
Moving on from that sneak diss. With the ship on fire, filled with hijackers, and sinking, our mom realizes that's over. Our mom tells us she loves us, gives us a heart-filled speech, and then tells us to run away. She stays behind, fighting off the hijacker, giving us time to escape. However, she's not the only one. As we make our way through the ship, other passengers buy us time. The piano lady drops her piano onto the Oxus, allowing us to escape to a top deck. There, we're finally cornered, and without any options, it all seems hopeless. And that's when a shadow comes and takes us away. So, title card ends and we see Talonflame standing in front of us. It's clearly the one that saved us from wreckage, and its owner comes up running from their yacht and asks us what happens. We tell her that we're the sole survivors of the terrorist attack and what happened on the ship. She then introduces herself as Tesla. Anyways, back on topic. Tesla tells us how it's most likely Team Zen, a new terrorist organization in the region, responsible for the attack. And after introducing ourselves to her, she recommends we go to Garen Laboratory to get set up and start our journey as Pokemon trainers. However, on the way to Laboratory, we stop and see this random person in front of the boat. We talk to them, and we're luckily the 1,000th person to talk to them today. And they've given us a free ride to Hoenn, an entire trip. Now, we could stay and solve the mystery of who attacked the boat, why, and go find our mom, if she's still alive. Or we could take a free trip to Hoenn. And we're going to Hoenn! And we beat the game! Anyways, coming back to Avium, where we meet Amanda, the person who helped us register for a league in the character selection. After properly registering in person, we meet another person, Jan. And for those watching this video, you're probably new to the game and probably don't know who Jan is and don't understand the meme. He's the creator of the game. He is the GOAT. So after meeting Jan and bumping into that random blonde girl, we follow Amanda to meet the professor, and we interrupt his video call with his girlfriend. Hey, doesn't her uniform look a bit familiar? It's almost like I've seen it somewhere before. And it doesn't matter. It's time to choose a Pokemon! Finally! For the first time in a Pokemon game, we're actually choosing a Pokemon. Now, who to choose? And after choosing Turtwig, of course, we have to challenge Amanda to a Pokemon battle, which we easily win. With that, she gives us some Pokeballs and leaves us to go on our journey. We return downstairs to see the professor, and we meet one of his trainees named Ren. Looks a bit familiar, doesn't he? For those viewers who saw the first episode, aka prologue episode. Thank you for the views. Anyways, Ren informs us of one of the most important mechanics in the game. The field effects. Like regular Pokemon, the terrain you battle on does matter, but it is 100 times more important in this game since they have something called field effects. Field effects basically mean every terrain you battle on, every time you battle, there's a different field that gives different buffs and different boosts or debuffs and does affects Pokemon differently 1,000 times in 1,000 different ways. It's all very complicated, and before you had to look up with the wiki and everything, but now they've added it into the game in this version. Very simple, and you will still be confused, but that's okay. Don't be like a certain someone I know who has a Gengar profile as their YouTube page and complain that the field effects make the game bad or make it worse because it's so complicated when it's actually a really good thing. Okay, getting back to the story. We beat Ren easily and send him on his way, but then the professor stops us and asks us for a favor. He tells us about his daughter Malia, who he sent to Route 1. He wants us to go there to accompany her. He'd feel better if she had someone by her side. And he bribes us with a Cybernab and a Pokegear. Now, why he's asking the brand new trainer to do it instead of, you know, anyone else is anyone's guess. But I'm not turning down free shit. And so, this is where take a pause in the story. For we have done something called put in passwords, which allow me to access stuff that I'm not supposed to access in the game yet. Why did I do this, chat? Is this cheating? No. I did it because I played this game before, and it's going to be kind of annoying to do all this work over and over again. Just, that's time consuming. It's not cheating. Anyways, I'll leave the passwords that I put in the description in case you guys want to know what I did. Blah, blah, blah. You already know. And so, we're going to take a pause from the story. EV train our Pokemon, gain more Pokemon, and most importantly, do quests. Now you might be asking, what are quests? Well, let me show you. And this is it, chat. This is the Help Plaza, aka the place you go to pick up quests. Now, what do these quests have? Are they interesting? Sometimes no, most of the time no. Most of the times you get some money, items, stuff like that. But for some of them, a very few, they give very interesting lore. Now, do I say do all of these? No, you don't have to. If you want to get your friendship up, I guess, or be a good person, sure. Some of them like affect you later on. But the ones I do highly recommend you do for both the lore and for later gameplay wise is Hidden Library. For these quests have levels to them. Some of them. Hidden Library is one of those quests. It unlocks future gameplay stuff. So I highly recommend doing Hidden Library 1, 2, and 3. Those are the only ones you can do in the first 3 chapters, I think. And then they come back later. Anyways, that's what the help quest is. You get rewards and stuff from it. I'm gonna do them all. Blah, blah, blah. Now chat, did you think I was gonna hype up Hidden Library and not show you any content from it? Because you'd be right. Because I forgot to record it, and I can't find it in any of my recordings. So, unfortunately, I can't show you the first Hidden Library, but I'll show you the Starly quest, where we meet the most important character from the Hidden Library series, Karen. And just a little glimpse of what she's capable of. Damn. Am I right, chat? So that's the first quest we have to do to unlock the Hidden Library series. And the first quest for it is just talking to this guy with a backpack and going around the city, talking to random people, trying to get info for him on the library, and it leads to nothing major happening. So forgive my unprofessionality, chat, and I'll make sure to show you the Hidden Library 2 in the next video. This one's not over, so don't click off yet though. Anyways, moving on a little bit, I'm gonna share one last quest with you for one scene. Basically, you help this hairdresser girl find her mom. She's running an underground illegal hairdressing thing. Someone threatens to shut them down. We battle a person, we win. But at the very end, as mother and daughter have a happy reunion, you stand there and have a vision of your own mom looking down on you from above.
It's enough to make a grown man cry.
Okay, well, we're gonna leave the quest for now on. If you guys want separate videos on the quest, let me know in the comments down below. Look into it. But I'm gonna introduce you to a few more important characters. First of all, there is Truck Guy, or Truck Coon. This guy is the GOAT. Gets us quite literally everywhere we need to go throughout the entire game. So instead of having to run back through each route, he takes us from town to town. So he has GOAT status. He's literally Z tier on my tier list for characters in the game. And then there's also another Z tier character, the XP trainer. So instead of farming XP on random wild Pokemon, XP trainer's there when we just beat on. And later in the game, she just uses Auto Nose, who uses Final Wish or Killing Wish or something that makes them insta die. So it gets even better later on. And of course, the last go-to character, Zumi. Creator of the game, does most of the music. You haven't heard most of the music because for some reason I muted it in the first chapter. I'll make sure to fix that. But shout out to her and everyone else who made the game. Even though you don't have characters and I didn't mention you, shout out to you. Anyways, Zumi's quest is kind of long and kind of pointless to get into this early since it takes the entire game to finish. So I'm not even gonna bother. But anyways, that's enough stalling, guys. We're going back to the story. So let's do what the professor said and let's go find Malia on Route 1. Okay, never mind. Malia's gone. Let's go fight the gym leader, I guess, and continue on with our day. So this seems like the gym. Are they closed? Maybe this house next door knows something. Well, damn, didn't know Superman lives there. Okay, chat, I'm gonna stop pretending I don't know who this is. So this purple hair girl who just got punched through the ceiling by her mom is Venom, otherwise known as the gym leader of East Garen, and the first gym leader we're going to fight. But before we can fight her, we have to get her a berry from Berry Emporium, where the cashier puts a little something something in the berry. We claim credit for the prank, and she immediately likes us for it. And before we can challenge her to a gym battle, Venom tells us to go down to the sewers to hang out with her and her friends. And runs off before we can say anything else. So of course, we follow her down to the sewers, where we run into Ren once again. So after introducing everyone to each other and everything, Venom runs up ahead, while Ren and I stick together since we're both new trainers to battle our way through the sewers. We finally make it to the generator room where the last friend is waiting for. Turns out to be the blonde-haired girl we ran into earlier in the laboratory. Anyways, the blonde-haired girl introduces herself as Malia. She explains how the generators are having a problem that she can't fix for some reason. And that's when a Garbodor appears out of the generator. And this introduces us to a new mechanic in the game, otherwise known as boss battles. Basically, what a boss battle is, a Pokemon has multiple health bars and might have special effects too. What that means is, depending on what they do, they could change types mid-fight, they could paralyze, they could change fields, paralyze Pokemon, sleep Pokemons, do a whole bunch of random bullshit, and it adds another level of difficulty to a fight. And I won't lie to you, some of these later boss battles do be pulling some random plot armor main character bullshit out of their pants. I'm gonna save it for later videos, but y'all don't understand. Y'all just don't. Anyways, we defeat the Garbodor easily with the help of Ren, and that fixes the generator. And afterwards, the three of us, or the four of us now, break off into our own things. Ren's going to the library, Malia's going to a park, and Venom challenges us to a gym battle. Out of the three, I would say probably the most important one to go to is Malia. You get a verse Ren again in the library, not important, but you want to build a strong friendship with Malia, especially if you are doing the Paragon route, because her friendship is very important for reasons I shall not specify yet, but you'll see. Anyways, we do all three. We go visit Ren in library, go hang out with Malia for a bit, take photos of a Pokemon, and then finally we go to the gym where we challenge Venom and we kick her ass. And because I'm nice, I shall share my tech with y'all. All you have to do to win this fight is literally pick up a Mightyena, make sure to learn Towel, howl twice, and you're sweeping her team. I feel as though Jan and the other devs made this probably on purpose due to the small variety of Pokemon available in the first gym, and because it's a 6-on-6 immediately. But who knows? Maybe it's a mistake. Maybe they'll nerf him later. Hopefully not, because Venom's really not a gym leader you want to waste time on. And before we move on from the Venom fight, there were a couple of interesting people in the crowd watching, but I won't go into further detail on that, just wanted to point it out. And so we leave the gym where we run into Malia and Ren again. Malia says now that our generator is fixed, the Route 1 line should still work, and asks us to join her. And having beat Venom, we have nothing better to do, so of course we go Route 1. But as we enter a train station, we meet a familiar face. It's Tesla. We tell her how we beat Venom and everything, how we're moving up in the world, and she gets us a lifetime free pass on the Route 1 train. This is just S-tier character material right there. So we go Route 1, get off the train, and meet up with Malia. And from there we just have a fun time around the park. Going around, talking to people, seeing stuff. And for this generation, or this version, they added a fun little bit where you can see Malia struggle to tame her Baneri, because it doesn't listen to her. And that shit's hilarious, because she sucks as a trainer. And you're gonna see why that's hilarious in like 5 seconds. And so after that bit, we go into the mountain where we discover a mural with ancient graffiti, ancient writing. And using a device she got for Professor Jenner, it decodes all the ancient writing. And she reads aloud a speech. At first nothing happens, but then the whole wall crumbles in front of us. We go through it and see murals that are too hard to make out due to the lighting. But on the other side, we emerge in a hidden cove. There, as we proceed, we run into a massive castle. And in front of the castle, we see shiny Vivians that Malia calls butterflies of fate. They're the whole reason she came to Goldenwood Forest, and she's been looking for them. So we follow the Vivians up the castle, where we discover a giant Arceus statue waiting for us. We find the Vivians floating around the statue. Although a bit mysterious, we choose to leave it alone, and Malia gets her pictures of them. And then, after coming a long way, we decide to have a nice picnic in front of the castle. Now, this is where the lore-heavy dialogue comes in. We tell Malia everything that happens to us from the terrorist attack onwards, blah blah blah. And she spits some of her own lore. She tells us it's actually her last day in East Garden City. She's going to a different city called Grand Dream City to become the normal type gym leader there. And that is correct. The girl who cannot tame a Baneri is going to become a gym leader. And so she tells us her fears and everything, and then she hesitantly asks us to come with her to Grand Dream City. Before changing her mind and saying that's too big of an ass, she does challenge us to a battle on top of the castle. At this point, I will say, I have been making fun of Malia a lot in this video, but that's mainly because I know what happens in my other playthroughs and stuff like that. But in your first playthrough, at this point, she's probably your best friend. She has more scenes than both Ren and Venom, and just has better interactions. And so, the first time you play this game, you probably think she is your best friend and everything. Anyways, getting back to it, we end up beating Malia, and she thanks us for the battle. We go back down, pack up everything for a picnic, and as we're about to fold up the blanket, a weird eyeball symbol appears over the entire screen. This is followed by a giant explosion back in the main forest. Malia says to ditch the blanket, and we follow her back to the cave. But as we do, we're stopped at the entrance, and we look up to see a giant Absol above us. It doesn't attack, it doesn't do anything or say anything, it just stares before disappearing. We go back in cave and we found an old lady from an earlier quest saying how people in black have shown up and took her Pokemon. Malia immediately recognizes that Team Zan, and we immediately rush out the cave to face him. So we get out the cave, and we see Team Zan's flooded the area with troops. We're immediately confronted by some grunts. They tell us that they're actually here from Malia herself. They don't tell us why, but they pull out a Pokemon that's glowing purple. They explain that the Pokemon's a shadow Pokemon that's extremely powerful, and they barely have control of it. Malia immediately tells us to type in a code into her suitcase. It opens up and pulls out a weird looking machine called a snag machine. Now, this device allows us to catch shadow Pokemon and basically steal them from their trainers. So we put it on the snag machine and battle the grunt and steal his Meowth. Fighting our way through the crowd of grunts, stealing shadow Pokemon as we go for later use. We finally make it to the end, and we're greeted by this orange-haired girl and black-haired guy. This is Shannon and Eli. And these two are basically the comic relief of the game. They appear throughout the entire game. Literally. They're there, I think, in every chapter. Except for like 1 or 2. And they're just there to be comic relief. But that makes them A tier characters, B tier characters. I'll release my tier list for this game later. And so we fight off Shannon and Eli, and they're gonna fight us again. But that's when the Garbodor from earlier, the Garbodor from the sewers, the boss Pokemon, comes to distract them and get them away from us. That gives us the opportunity to confront the Team Zan executive, the guy behind this entire attack. We approach to find this blonde-haired guy standing in front of this weird dimensional warp. He explains that thing behind him is called a dimensional rift. It's used to create dimensional Pokemon, aka more ruthless Pokemon. He tells us how it's pointless, how even if we beat him, the rift is gonna he tells us how it's pointless. How if we beat him, the rift is just gonna consume us. He introduces himself as Zeta and begins to fight us. Anyways, a bit of knowledge. Zeta has one of the best shadow Pokemon you could get. He has a Snow Runt, which means if you get lucky in a later quest, you could gain Frostlass before the 4th gym. So yeah, make sure to watch out for that. So after beating him, Zeta's a sore loser. So he pulls in all the dying Magikarps into the rift, creating a rift Pokemon, and sicks it on us. And yes, we were just eaten by a giant Magikarp. So inside the rift, we make our way to the Gyarados, where we battle it. But just before we face it alone, Malia's voice? Character? Essence? Something? Soul, maybe? Malia appears somehow within the rift. And so, she doesn't fight it or anything. I guess she might nerf it or something. I don't know. But anyways, Dash is there for show. She doesn't really do anything. But we defeat the Gyarados and destroy the Rift Pokemon. And Zeta's just shook. But he's not gonna let us escape. And that's when the Garbodor reappears. It buys us time to escape from Zeta. And Malia and us run back to the train station to get back to East Garen. There, we run to the professor to find out what the hell's going on, why the snag machine was in the suitcase, why he gave us the suitcase in the first place, and we want him to answer all our questions. And so we get back to the laboratory. We're about to confront the professor when Malia stops us and pulls us to the side. We see the girl that was on the video call with Professor now there in person. We see she's wearing the same uniform as Zeta, meaning she's also working for Team Zen. But from their conversation, we learn that Team Zen gave Malia to the professor. It means that Professor Jenner is part of Team Zen. This revelation angers Malia to a point where she runs out, confronts the professor and Madless. Jenner's relieved to see Malia, but she's infuriated. She's calling him out for betrayal, for lying to her, for setting her up. Madless doesn't really care about anything she's saying, so she immediately pulls out her Houndoom, and this is where we battle Madless as Malia instead of ourselves. This does happen a few more times in the game, and this does feel like a scripted loss, but I'm the GOAT, so I won. But Madless did only use one Pokemon, and Malia's Pokemon are all worn out from our earlier battles. So she does one last thing. She tells her Habibi? She tells her Togepi to use Metrodome. And it teleports her out of the room to who knows where. Yeah, not the brightest idea. Anyways, Team Zen spreads out across the city looking for Malia, while we let Madless go because we can't do shit. Afterwards, Ren runs into the room, asks what the hell's happening, what's going on. The professor immediately tells us to go after Malia. She should be in Route 2 on the way to Sheridan. The gym leader there is pretty strong, so he could protect her. But Jenner barely gets this warning out when a Gothitail appears in between us. A mysterious voice lectures him from within the walls. And a rift similar to the one from the forest appears right behind them, pulling the professor in. He begs us to find Malia and to save her before being ripped through the portal. And the voice warns us not to go after Malia, that only despair would follow. After the warning, we fill in Ren on what just happened, and together we decide to meet up with Venom and chase down Malia to save her from Team Zen. And chapter 1 ends on that cliffhanger.